Choosing an energy company raises many questions. Who can make my electricity and natural gas work smarter? Where can I find a company that's easy to do business with, who knows the market best and has options to fit my needs? For millions of homes and businesses, there is one answer: Constellation. Decades of market intelligence and proven solutions from the trusted energy leader. Energy made efficient, simple, insightful, and flexible. That's what makes Constellation America's energy choice. Learn more at constellation.com/energy.
Blog Talk Radio.
Let's go. It's time to attack. We the smartest, fastest, and most vicious. We gonna put them in their place. We coming out here for one day. And he's gonna fire deep. But there inside the 10. Throws Superman. Good route by Edelman. Now they come on a reverse to the near side on a quick run.
All right, Fred, throw that flag if you have to, man. But, oh, boy, do we have a doozy for you guys tonight. Welcome to another edition of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue, the show where we talk nothing but NFL football. That's what we cover on Cover 2. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Devin McMillan, but I'm here at the round table with my partner. We got Fred Purdue in the building. Fred, what's going on?
What's going on, man? After a very, very interesting weekend in NFL football, we're at that midway point, and it's not looking good for a lot of teams. A lot of teams have made some surprising moves. We have a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, there's some good teams, supposedly good teams, that need to play catch up in the second half of the season. But folks, we're going to take our time on this one. We got a special guest that we're going to bring on in a few minutes. We're going to talk to Mark Cook from the Pewter Report about what's going on down in Tampa. Because if you were watching football this weekend, you know that something is going on down in Tampa. And we're definitely going to talk about that. Man, the trade deadline has come and gone. There were a few doozies. Like Fred likes to say, we talked about it earlier. He said, well, there's only a couple that matter. But there's a lot of fan bases out there who are happy with some of their returns during this trade deadline as well. So we're going to get into all of that. But, yeah, man, so I guess we can get into a couple of the quick slant topics before our guest comes on. So let's talk about the Browns real quick, man. It's like the Browns are cleaning the house. They fired Hugh Jackson. They fired the offensive coordinator, Todd Haley. What's going on? Because I'm looking at it like this, Fred. Hugh Jackson had only won, one game over the prior 2 years as head coach, with his stint with the Browns. So I'm figuring if now that you have some roster talent, if you know that Hugh Jackson going forth is not going to be your long-term answer at coach, then why allow him to start the season? Or are the Browns just being the Browns, and just because they got a little bit of talent, they just expected this first half of the season to be win-win-win, which is very unrealistic. So what's the case here?
Just another case of just dysfunction all over again. It's, as owner Jimmy Haslam says, it's a total reboot again. And I mean, you saw it in Hard Knocks, and I'm not the one that frequents this show, but when you say the Browns are in this thing and they're improving and Mayfield, I'm interested. So throughout this process, you saw a lot of just back and forth between not only Hugh Jackson but offensive coordinator Todd Haley, who he was a part of this. I mean, we didn't see just an exodus of the head coaching position. We saw the offensive coordinator go too, and these two have been going back and forth, jockeying for position. Your players aren't going to respond well to this, all of this fighting, and now both of them are gone. And if I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm looking around saying, well, who's calling plays now? Because my head coach was the play caller, and the offensive coordinator was his right hand man. So what do we do now? Am I supposed to be just the unquestioned leader? And by the way, now my interim coach is a guy that started Bountygate, albeit a very good coordinator, Bountygate.
Yeah. That's definitely an interesting part there. Like, you get rid of Hugh and you bring in somebody who, probably shouldn't be coaching in the NFL again, like, albeit he is a good coach, a good coordinator, at least, like you said. But it just gets weird in Cleveland. It's weirder and weirder every year, man. It's just interesting to me, man, because it puzzles me. So like I said earlier, when you fire somebody, halfway through a season, it's kind of like either your expectations were way too high, or this person was never in your long-term plans to begin with. Like, I don't see why the Browns, I guess the Browns read their own newspaper clippings prior to the season. They believed the hype with, several pundits picking them to be a dark horse to make the playoffs. I think they believed that hype. And midway through the season, they don't feel that they're on track to do that. So Hugh Jackson gets the axe on that. I'm not advocating for Hugh Jackson. Like, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, man, they made a mistake. He's a great coach. Because in the situations that Hugh Jackson has been, given as an NFL head coach, like, we really haven't gotten a chance to see if he is indeed a good coach. He's given these kind of impossible situations, and you see as soon as the team starts to have any type of expectation, if they're still losing, then he's gone. So I really have no idea what Hugh Jackson is as a head coach. I know what his record says he is. So, like I said, in no way am I advocating, because he's the unknown for me right now. I really don't know. It's crazy.
Definitely. And
more people.
For me, with this situation, one of the two or three things that maybe kind of bother me in this situation, when you see I'm just going to take it there. I wasn't a big fan of this hire in the beginning, more so for Hugh Jackson than anything. Didn't really think he was a true head coach. I thought he was one of those coordinator types that just happened to get the job. But it's a classic case of African-American coach that tends to take the first job they find versus because the opportunities aren't really there. And now many of those same assistants, they're looked down on now because of what he had to deal with, which is the Browns. You're not overcoming that. You have to have a lot to overcome that. It's not like you just step in and say, I'm Marvin Lewis, where I got pictures, I got some kind of video of somebody, and I can just keep my job. Yeah, you got insider secrets, but you have the Browns where it's a reboot every single year, and I look at guys. I even look at like a guy like your guy Deuce Staley with the Eagles. I mean, he's not a realistic head coaching candidate right now, but what is to stop an owner from saying, well, I'm not sure about him because of what happened with good old Hugh Jackson, who's really just a very good quarterback coach and a very good play caller, which we tend to see. Head coaching being a head coach is a whole different animal. You're not just coaching one side of the ball or one position, and that's one of the one things that just really it's been kind of bugging me for the last couple of years when it comes to him. I think he just prematurely jumped at the most open position that was available. And by the way, this Browns team was also in virtually every game. I mean, how many times have we said this team's going to overtime again? Well, this game's close in the fourth quarter. They just don't know how to win yet. Give them a couple of years. They got the quarterback, and
exactly.
Now you fire them and start over. Now you have to teach all of this all over and change the culture.
Right, because I'm like, people these days, they don't have that kind of patience. And you made a great point, about the African-American coach not having those same opportunities. Look at a guy like John Gruden, albeit a Super Bowl winner, he could sit back for a decade and pick and choose as his name comes up for jobs every single year. He could sit back and pick and choose what he wants to do, come back and make more money than anybody, even though he hasn't been in a game for a decade. But, it is that type of case, though. And then I think some of these hires might be straight. I mean, because the Rooney Rule doesn't force you to hire anybody. It just forces you to basically provide interview opportunities. But I also look at it like you see this in different sports, not just football, where a franchise is rebuilding, so they'll bring a guy in, and this one I'm not playing the race card on this one. I'm just talking about a guy that they might not look at as the long-term answer at coach. They might bring him in during the rebuild. Then when they start smelling themselves and think, okay, we got some talent, it's time for us to make a move, then that guy who had to suffer through the rebuild and tear his head coaching record apart is let go. Like I see it in football, I see it in basketball. Like the opposite of this is actually what happened in Philly in the NBA. Like they hired Brett Brown. They knew they were tearing the team down and rebuilding it. He goes through a 4-year stint where his record is abysmal, but they are giving him an opportunity to be there, once the team got better. That might not be, those aren't the same opportunities back to the point that you made. There's not, if you don't have a complexion for the connection, you don't get those kind of opportunities. So yeah, it is weird, man. And I do feel sorry for Hugh Jackson. Like I said, I can't really advocate for him because of the situations he's been in. I have no idea what kind of a coach he is, so I can't speak on it. Because if we go by his record, then we had to throw him out in the trash with everything else. But
definitely.
In Dallas, the offensive line coach has been let go. This is crazy because, this is the offensive line that, people have been bragging about in the NFL for the last 5 years. It's in a bit of disarray now. The offensive line coach was the sacrificial lamb in this one here. What are your thoughts on this?
This is the strength of your offense. I mean, without this group, you may have, minus Travis Frederick, who we know has the injury. This offensive line has 3 Hall of Fame caliber players on it. One really good one left in Ronald Leary, and if we remember, Doug Free left a few years ago into retirement. Lyle Collins was supposedly groomed to take over that spot, and former offensive lineman Mark Colombo, who was he's now a coach. He's now been promoted to offensive line coach. This is one of those things that I don't get this move. You're firing your guy to bring in the guy who may be the guy later. I mean, this is a very disturbing move. But then again, it's Dallas, and when I see things like this from Dallas, I understand this is why you are a dysfunctional franchise. Just yet another sign of the things to come in Dallas. And quite honestly, the only person that is safe in this situation is Jason Garrett, who should have been gone years ago.
Yeah, that's another puzzling situation over there in Dallas, and of course it comes back to the point that you made. Not sure if Jason Garrett will still be holding on to his job if he was someone else. So it's interesting, man. So while we wait on our guests, we'll talk about the trade deadline, which has come and go, and we will talk about some of the bigger ones. I guess the 2 main names that moved. One, Demaryius Thomas, was traded from the Broncos to the Houston Texans, who they actually play this week. So his homecoming, he didn't have to wait long for that. It's going to be weird for him and for his defense to line up across from him and it not be practice. Golden Tate was dealt to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 3rd-round pick. Clinton Dix, he's moved to Washington. And there were a few more deals. Any other ones that stood out to you besides those 3?
Dante Fowler moving on to the Rams.
Yeah.
I see what they're doing here. It's a rental. You'll probably move on from Sue at least this year. Probably not. You're probably not keeping that salary next year. An aging player, so you bring him in to bring in Dante Fowler, and you develop him, and just bring in the next guy. You have Aaron Donald in the middle. You have a secondary. This team is built to win for at least 2 more seasons. Do whatever you can, and when you have to pay people like Jared Goff that big money, you already have a guy like a Dante Fowler Jr. who can be under you can franchise him or you can give him a light deal. He's not a max player anyway. He'll get a decent deal, but he hasn't really done much in his NFL career, so you can kind of play with the numbers with him a little bit. But definitely an extra pass rusher, you can't go wrong with that one. Eli Apple to the Saints may be something. Not really sure. He hasn't really. I don't try to equate interceptions with being a great corner because, quite honestly, it doesn't really mean much all the time because teams throw away from you. But he hasn't played well in his short time in the NFL. But the Saints need a little help on the back end. You have Marshawn Lattimore, but who else do you have? He's a big, rangy corner, quick guy. Maybe he needed to change the scenery. I mean, it is a losing culture up there. Him and Landon Collins were getting into it constantly. So maybe a change of scenery, maybe a real quarterback throwing at him in practice may make him better. Iron sharpens iron, as they say. But nothing major. There was nothing. I think the real trades were the Amari Cooper trade a week or so ago, the Demaryius Thomas trade, like you said, and the Golden Tate trade. Your team gets you guys are the rich are getting richer, and actually I take that back. That's a son. Clinton
Rich
Dixon.
haven't been playing like they're rich, so they probably need something like this.
The Giants are on the back end of this one as far as like winners and losers of all of this. The Giants lost out big time. Not only are good players going everywhere in that division, but they're letting go of guys, and they're letting go of guys quick. I mean, it's not looking good for them, and I think I think everybody but Landon Collins and Saquon Barkley, maybe, and of course Odell Beckham Jr., maybe, just maybe Evan Ingram, if he can continue his development. Those are the only guys not on the trade block. Everybody else is, and Eli's not he's not waiving that no trade clause, but everybody else is. It's a fire sale, and it's not looking good at all.
Yeah, it's definitely a fire sale going on in New York. And it's interesting to see, man, because I was one of those people, I guess, until the wheels completely fell apart. I don't know why, man. Last season and this season, because I always tell you, like, for some reason I believe in this team. And it's definitely time for Eli to step aside. But in me saying that, I'm not saying that it's all Eli's fault. I mean, if you watch this team play, the offensive line just opens the floodgates to Eli. He's a veteran quarterback who, as you know, this is the new thing they love to say in sports. He has the yips. He's a little nervous. He's a little afraid because, he's under siege every time he steps back to pass. Not saying every time he gets a clean pocket that, he throws a great pass or anything like that. But, more so than not, guys are on him as soon as he snaps the ball. And it's crazy to see, like, whether you root for a team or not, you really don't want to see a good veteran quarterback, go out on these type of terms. For me, I'm not supposed to mind it since I root for a team in the division. But, I've always had, for some reason, a soft spot in my heart for Eli Manning. I always root for guys who get a hard time, even though their results show that they might be better than what people are giving them credit of being. So, I always take that kind of plight. But, hey, Eli, it's about that time, homie. The Golden Tate
at this point,
situation.
He may not have a backup after what happened over the last day or so. Aletta running away from running away from his offense, from the defensive lines that are chasing, would be chasing him. I mean, I wouldn't stop either. I mean, if those defensive linemen were dressed up as cops and I'm in my car, I'm just saying. But, no shot fired.
What are your thoughts on the Golden Tate trade? Like, for me, I'm thinking Golden Tate makes your team better no matter what. It definitely makes the Eagles receiving core better. I don't think it addressed exactly what it is that they needed, but because the Eagles, by all accounts, need a deep threat. Mike Wallace was supposed to fill that role. Mike Wallace got hurt. Golden Tate is like the yak king of the league at this point, but he's not, he isn't necessarily, as they say, quote unquote, taking the top off of the defense. Do you think his presence is good enough, or do you think the Eagles need that deep threat just as a threat to be successful moving on? Because their schedule doesn't get any easier. What do you think about the Golden Tate deal?
I love that one. I love that pickup because not only do you have to not spend a ton to get him, but also what happens is you get a move the chains guy. And he has a little bit of giddy up every now and then, but you already have Alshon Jeffrey. You already have now you have add Golden Tate to the mix. You also have Jordan Matthews in the mix, Nelson Aguilar as well. Not a bad threesome there as far as receivers are concerned, and then you have Zach Ertz added to the mix as well. So for me, when I look at that, you have a very good mix of guys where Carson Wentz likes to dink and dunk. He's not the throw it deep every time kind of guy. He's kind of figured out that short to intermediate passing game in the NFL is where it's at, especially when your running game isn't hitting on all cylinders. So for me, when I look at how this thing is going for him, just more weapons for an already dangerous quarterback.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't wait to see them get Golden Tate in the mix. I think, their quote-unquote need for a deep threat guy, I think it might be a little bit of an overrated need. I think they'll be able to move the ball. I'm not going to say at will, but even though these guys aren't just blazing down the blazing down the field, I still think they're going to garner enough respect to be able to get, the other guys some action on the other side from them. So I think it's going to be fine, actually. Clinton Dix in Washington. Do you think that does anything to change the dynamic there? I mean, their defense has been leading them pretty well this season. They've led them to a 5-2 record, even though, Alex Smith is on the other side, not necessarily making mistakes, but being Alex Smith, not doing anything to win them games, just not doing anything to lose them games. So making the defense, you think this made the defense a little stronger?
I do. I really do. I haven't really seen a true free safety really dominating this division in a while. And this might be – he's not a super dynamic player, but he's always in the right place at the right time. And now DJ Swearinger can move back over to that strong safety position and kind of just be that in-the-box guy. He doesn't have to cover deep. I really like this tandem there. And this defense, they stopped the run really well. And Clinton Dix, he's a young guy. He's not – it's rare to see a young player like this get traded. But it's time to pay him, and you know how teams are when it comes time to pay. But this defense stops the run really well, and they're more a bit of a throwback because they tend to run. This team as a whole offensively, they run the ball really well, play good defense. Alex Smith is, like you said, he's not as conservative as he used to be. But he'll push it down the field a little bit every now and then, but he won't kill you. And as long as you have a defense and a running game that travels, boy, they're a tough out. And I said at the beginning preseason, remember these words. The team will be a lot better than you think. I didn't say they win it all in their division or anything. I wasn't ready to do that. But I said this team will be a lot better than you think. And this division is going to really help them on the back end.
All right. So before we move on, any more of these trades that kind of come to mind when you think about impact moving on for the rest of the season?
I think, like I said, I think the Eagles are going to be fine. I think they're 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 going to be fine. I think No trades made any real impact other than these big name trades. I think what really said something to me was, I think Green Bay is going to. Green Bay is really. I think they may be possibly going in a different direction, and also Tampa. We'll get into that in a minute. They didn't make any trades either. Deshaun Jackson was rumored to be on the block and wanted out, but we can kind of talk about that in a minute. But they didn't make any moves, so Jason Light maybe he feels a little bit safer going next season.
All right. Well, actually, we're going to do that. We're going to talk some Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we're going to do that with our guest Mark Cook, who covers the Bucs for the Pewter Report. In just a minute here, because some things have gone down in Tampa throughout the last week that are very, very interesting, and there's some futures that may be on the line. So we're going to do that right about now. We're going to go to our guest who is on the phone line right now. Like I said, he is the editor-in-chief and covers the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the Pewter Report, which is pewterreport.com, and He's on cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue. Right now, we have Mark Cook on the line. Mark, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry, a little late calling in. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. We're just rolling right along. There was a lot to talk about in the NFL this week, but the most interesting things we think have gone down in Tampa this particular week with Jameis Winston being benched. Fitzpatrick getting another shot at it. I'm pretty sure, you have your hands full down there covering this whole thing. Fred, you wanna ask Mark?
Yeah.
I know you had a bunch of questions for him, but I'm dumbfounded by what's happening, man. I'm very interested in this whole situation.
Mark, yeah, what's up, man? This Bucs team, we have. So much was surrounded with this team early in the season. Jameis had the suspension, and then he's coming back. His magic is the craze. So many games where the defense wasn't all that great. Now Jameis is benched. What's going on here? Because the team seems like a little dysfunction going on, especially on the offensive side.
Just another year of Tampa Bay Buccaneers football, man. What would it be without some sort of controversy or drama or soap opera going on? I was there again today, and I'll tell you though, when you're in that locker room and you're talking to these guys, they don't really seem to care. I mean, they're not. Somebody asked me earlier, if the guys were loose, if they were upset, and I've talked to several players, and none of them really seem to care who's the quarterback, as long as whoever the quarterback is gives them the best chance to win. And Dirk Cutter obviously felt that Jameis Winston wasn't that guy right now. But as far as people saying that, he's done in Tampa and it's over, I think that's a bit premature. I mean, we're talking about a 24-year-old quarterback who's played poorly this year, but at the same time, again, he's a 24-year-old quarterback. He's not, 35-year-old Ryan Fitzpatrick. And kid has I shouldn't say kid anymore, but the young man, had some weight of the franchise on his shoulders, right? He knows he's going into that kind of fourth year, the contract year, needing a big year. Then he starts the year off suspended. Fitzpatrick plays well in his absence, so he comes back trying to press and match those numbers. I'm not making any excuses for the way Jameis Winston's played. It's been bad, but I tend to believe that, the whispers of his exit out of Tampa Bay are a bit premature. I mean, there's still 9 games to go in this season. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him back under center at some point this year. Another first half like Fitz had against the Bears. And again, that wasn't all his fault. The offensive line couldn't protect him and they couldn't run the ball. But another game like that, and who knows if Jameis is playing in the second half of that game and starting the following week. It's not it's not like they cut the guy this week. They just sat him on the bench to kind of reflect and take a break, because mentally he's just doesn't have it right now.
Is that the only circumstance where you can see him getting back in, if Fitzpatrick actually gets in and kind of stinks up the joint? Or, could you see them just going back to Jameis as a last-ditch effort to see if he's going to be the future?
Yeah, I think if they're in the playoff race, then and if Fitzpatrick's playing well, they'd be foolish to do anything but play Fitzpatrick. I mean,
Right.
Jason Light and Dirk Cutter are trying to save their job right now, and the only way they're going to save it is to get to 8-8, 9-7, somewhere around there. And even then, you have to wonder. But they're not going to save their jobs going 5-11 again this year, guys. And Fitzpatrick's playing well. But Jameis doesn't play anymore this year, and I agree with that. I mean, Dirk said it again today in his press conference. This isn't a situation where, listen, most teams don't bench their slumping quarterback mainly because they don't like their number 2 guy or they don't trust their number 2 guy. The Buccaneers don't have that problem going either way. I mean, if Fitzpatrick starts slumping, they don't have a problem going back to Winston. So, it's a tough situation to be in. It's a good situation, right, to have 2 quarterbacks that you feel that you can win with. But it's not a case where they, hate Jameis Winston and have given up on him completely. But 4 turnovers cost this team that game. And they're down. They're -7 in the last 2 games. The fact that they were able to beat the Browns is really astonishing when you look at that statistic. The fact that they've, haven't got a turnover and they've committed 7 of them in the last 2 games. And you just don't win many football games doing that, and they're not going to win many going forward if that continues. So they're hoping Fitzpatrick can, play as well as he did in the second half against the Bengals, or like he did against the Eagles and the Saints earlier this year, and hope he doesn't have another Bears type game. But if he does, I don't think they're going to be afraid to go back to Jameis Winston at that point, because they do need to see what they have. I don't believe they're ready to give up on this guy. And people can say, well, you've got 3 years of Jameis Winston, you know what you have, but I don't believe that. I mean, every play, every drive, every snap that he takes is another development, good or bad. So far this year, it hasn't been a good development. But, again, this isn't a 7th-round draft pick, guys. This is the number 1 overall pick just 3 years ago. So, me, and people say it's my FSU bias. And, look, I don't give a crap about these guys once they leave college. I care very much while they're in college, trust me. And, yes, I stumped for Derwin James. And I don't think anybody, even the most person who calls me the most biased person in the world, can argue with the fact that I think Derwin James would have had a bigger impact so far through 7 games than Vita Vea has had. I mean, I saw the SI rankings of the top rookies, and Derwin James was ranked up there. But I didn't like Derwin James because he wore garnet gold. I liked Derwin James because I thought at that position where they were drafting, he could have the most impact this season in a position of need. So it's not a bias. I mean, I hated the Aguayo pick. I thought that was awful. I wasn't screaming for DeMarcus Walker or screaming for, other Florida State guys. I like Dalvin Cook a lot, but I was more than happy with O.J. Howard and would have done the same thing at 19. I would have taken O.J. Howard all day long. As much as I like Dalvin in Florida State, I think O.J. Howard is a better player. It's going to have more of an impact in the future moving forward. So, it's not a Jameis thing for me. But at the same time, I'm trying to look at it from a realistic perspective, and I just think, you give up on a kid that's 24. This team did that with a young man named Doug Williams. They did that with a young man named Steve Young. And, laugh what you want, Trent Dilfer's got the same amount of Super Bowl rings that Drew Brees does right now, 1. So, again, I think you get rid of this guy at 24, you're really setting yourself up for, having to eat crow down the road potentially. And maybe not, but I don't know that you get rid of Jameis at this point. I certainly would.
Now, for me, when I look at this franchise and Jason Light, there were no real moves despite the rumors of Deshaun Jackson, which I thought was outlandish for what this team wants to do on the ball down the field. Jameis is, despite all the bad things that every fan thinks about, he's throwing the football, maybe a little off, but with his accuracy, but he can definitely spin it down the field. No moves made in the offseason. Do you feel Jason Light he feels a little bit more comfortable with his job? Maybe ownership has said, look, you have a little bit more time, or is he just banking on maybe this team catching some fire under Fitzmagic?
There's 2 ways to look at that. One way is he feels comfortable he's going to be back next year because he does have a contract. But listen, this ownership group, and I'm not saying don't trust the Glazers, but they're owners, right? And they're bosses. And bosses will tell their employees whatever they need to make sure the office runs efficiently in the present time. look, they fired Greg Schiano and Mark Dominic, told both those guys they were going to be safe. A few days later, they fired him. They fired Lovie Smith after 2 years. They fired Raheem Morris with time on his contract. They fired John Gruden, with years on his contract. So, no, I don't think Jason Light for a second feels that he's necessarily safe. But he did try and make some moves at the trade deadline. We've got a story up now, and I don't know the source, but we did source it in the story. But it came from the New York media. The Buccaneers really, really pursued Landon Collins from the Giants very heavily there on Tuesday. Couldn't get a deal done. The Giants just wanted a little too much. I would have really loved to have seen that happen, to bring a veteran guy in here, a proven guy to line him up next to Justin Evans and see what you could do to improve that secondary. But it didn't happen. So he did try and make some moves, but he didn't sacrifice the franchise's future as far as draft picks, giving up too many, and didn't bow down to what the Giants were asking for. And there were teams interested in Deshaun Jackson. The Houston Texans were one. I believe the Eagles was another team. Again, that story's up on PewterReport.com now. People can check it out. But they didn't want to get rid of Deshaun Jackson. And why would you when you've got a top 5 offense? When you just finished a game where you put up 576 yards of offense, a franchise record, why would you do anything? Because your only hope this year to salvage this season is just to outscore opponents, right? So why would you take a guy that's on pace for 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns off the field for a draft pick next year? You know what I mean?
Definitely. I don't get it as far as offensively. Why would you want to fix it? Really, the mantra you guys had down there was weapons for Winston early, and now you fix the defensive line. And you go. I hate it when they take Kwan out and they go down, but the defense, the seven's not a problem. It's the back end. And when I look at that back end, Justin Simmons is a good player, but when I look at the secondary, I say Vernon Hargreaves. I thought he didn't really do what we thought he would do. Brett Grimes getting a little bit older. Yeah, you should have went after that corner instead of maybe going after another defensive lineman, despite having all the guys you needed. But Mark, before we get you out of here, man, Dirk Cutter. Last question, Dirk Cutter. We saw what we've seen from him as far as a play caller, some of the things that he's done. Is he kind of on thin ice going into the end of this? Because we've seen what we've seen from John Gruden a little early, but he really hasn't done much with this team despite having all the weapons. Things aren't looking good.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's on the hot seat. There's no question about it. And they've got to win football games because although this offense is performing better than any Buccaneer offense, listen, through the first 7 games, this offense is on a record pace in NFL history. They're just 4 yards behind what the greatest show on turf with the Rams did that magical year. I don't remember if it was 99, 2000, 2001, but during that stretch after this many games, they were literally 4 yards behind the greatest 7-game start in NFL history. So Dirk Cutter has done his job as far as the offense goes. But listen, he hired Mike Smith. Mike Smith hurt this team. There's no two ways about it. I mean, this team has not lit up the field defensively the last couple games, but they're better. And there was some deficiencies with Mike Smith and his his scheme, and that falls on Dirk Cutter. As listen, whether it's fair or not, I mean, he's the guy that hired him, and listen, don't forget the Glazers renegotiated with this guy or re-signed him and made him the highest paid defense coordinator in the NFL, and they're paying him right now to sit on a beach in Tahiti right now if that's what he's doing. Okay, so those things still fall on Dirk Cutter. While his pedigree and his resume is offense, and they're certainly performing better, I think, than most people even thought this year. When you look at total offense, bottom line is results and wins, and he's essentially the CEO of this company, right? There's 53 men on the field, and if it's not performing overall, not just offensively, but as a team where it needs to be, then absolutely, I think the Glazers are looking at that, and they would consider making a change. And they don't want to do that. They want this to work out. I think everybody wants it to work out, but at the same time, it's like ripping the Band-Aid off, right? If you know you got to rip the Band-Aid off, you know it's going to hurt. why do it slowly? And if they don't have comfortable, or if they don't have confidence in Dirk moving forward after this year, then I think they do rip that Band-Aid off and make a pretty quick decision after the season.
Well, we don't want to see the bad happen. I want to see the team continue to fail. Actually, I've kind of grown a slight soft spot for James. I hope everything works out down in Tampa. But Mark, we gotta kind of get it on going. So before we get you out of here, man, let all the fans know a little bit more about yourself and where they can find your work.
Yeah, they can check us out on pewterreport.com. We are online, a ton of new stories every day. There's about 5 of us down at One Buccaneer Place every day. The doors are open. We've got a full-time crew down there, great photographers. We've added we call it PRTV element to it this year with some different videos and highlight-type deals. We want people to check those out. Of course, on Twitter, we've got over 30,000 Twitter followers. They can follow us at Pewter Report. Also on Instagram, they can follow us there as well, and Facebook. So hope people will go check it out if you're interested in Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've got you covered, man. There's not much news that gets by that we don't get a story up or a reaction to it or even break the news. So anyway, hope people will check us out at pewterreport.com, and I really appreciate you guys having me on. You do a great job.
All right. Thanks for your time, Mark.
Yep. Thanks for your time, man.
Sure, man.
All right. That's Mark Cook, everybody. Pewterreport.com. We will post that info on the War Room Sports Facebook and Twitter pages as well, so you can get that information again. But look, that was a wealth of information about what's going down with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. It's so interesting for me to see. That's why, like, when we first started talking about it before he came on, like, I was just so speechless because over the weekend, like, the story started to ramp up, and I was so interested in it. So it was great to get an insider's perspective on that whole story, man. Like, I don't want Jameis to fail, man. Like, you know, I might have my jokes here and there sometimes, but I don't want Jameis Winston to fail. I mean, as a matter of fact, I was very big on him coming out of college, and you know, I know you had heaped some praise on him as well. We knew his problems were all, you know, were all between his ears. You know, those were the problems. It was a maturity thing. He came into the league and showed flashes, showed that, okay, this guy might be something. And right now, I think he's getting so much flack because you look at somebody like a Marcus Mariota, who I don't think is good at all, but the fact remains that his job doesn't seem to be in question or anything like that. But I think that comes with expectations. I think a lot of people just expected Jameis, as far as pure passer goes, to be a much better quarterback than a Marcus Mariota. And I still think he is, but I think it's, you know, different expectations are leading them down different paths right now. But we definitely got to move on. We will talk about this as it unwraps. It is interesting that he did talk about thinking that it was completely over. Like, sometimes you hear coaches and you hear pundits talk about the fact that, you know, once you pull somebody, you know, it's hard to go back to them. But, you know, they are dealing with Ryan Fitzpatrick over here. He's the type of dude you can ride his magic for a couple of weeks and then you might not have a choice but to go back to Jameis.
Two good games, 2 really good games, and then that Steelers game happened, and you were like, okay, we remember why we have Mike as a backup. We remember why.
Right.
We remember why you that contract didn't really go through in Buffalo. We remember why. This team, Jameis is going to have to really just buckle up and just keep his head down, quite honestly, toward in the offseason. If he can just go through an offseason without any issues, maybe people will forget about it, and maybe if you just you can just put together a season like he did his rookie year, 22 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 4,000 yards, and maybe 9 wins. Even if you don't win your division, have a winning season and improve in year 5, improve in year 6, show this fan base you can keep winning. That's when things will happen. But like you said, we got to move on from this Tampa Bay team. This is not Tampa Bay today. We will definitely update everybody on this one as the season goes on. Got 8 more games to go.
No doubt, no doubt. So let's go deep. Let's run some deep routes here. It is mid-season by the way. So Fred and I definitely have to give you our mid-season awards, and we're going to run down that list right now. We're going to give you Comeback Player of the Year at the midpoint, Coach of the Year, Defensive Rookie, Defensive Player, MVP, and we're going to even give you our game or our moment of the season thus far. So let's start it off with Comeback Player of the Year. You can go ahead and start that one off.
Oh man, Comeback Player of the Year. This one was kind of tough for me, but Carson Wentz has really been. He's not been great, but he hasn't been awful. It's really hard to think of any real big time players that have been hurt or injured or just out of the game. Adrian Peterson comes to mind, and that's who I had to go with. This is Carson Wentz has been. Adrian Peterson looks like he's kind of drank from the fountain of youth, and he's really the catalyst for this team. This Washington. I mean, he's not.
Adrian Peterson. He doesn't drink from the fountain of youth. He's just a cyborg. The funny part about it is Adrian Peterson should always be the last person that we all count out, even though we all counted him out, didn't think he could do it. Maybe it was truly the situation last year. Like we thought from what we saw from him in New Orleans, before making that move last year, we thought he was pretty much done. And then he went to a team that was they didn't really have much to fight for. He didn't play as badly as he did New Orleans, but it just wasn't the Adrian Peterson that we were used to. But he's here in Washington, running behind a pretty good line, and a pretty stable offense. And he, I'm not going to say he looks like the AP that we know, but he has flashes of that. He's still hard to bring down.
I mean, the touchdowns aren't there, but he's only had 2 games under 50 yards, and he's still that bell cow back 25 to 28 carries a game. He's had roughly 100 yards, almost 100 yards every game. His last game against Washington. I'm sorry, against at New York. When I saw the Giants just getting sliced and diced, no one wants to tackle this guy anymore, even at 26. And with 26 carries, the only thing he doesn't have that breakaway. He's not breakaway Adrian Peterson after trucking a guy or hitting the hole. He got caught from behind. He scored, but he got caught from behind. And I said, that's 30-year-old Adrian Peterson. But it's kind of like I look at Adrian Peterson kind of like how many people look at LeBron. It's like he's still LeBron. He's still really good. And he may have lost a step, but he still got – you can see who that guy used to be. And for me, like I said, he's 33 years old at this point, and he's still running hard. So he might have maybe a couple years.
Even though I just helped you heap a whole bunch of praise on Adrian Peterson, I'm going to go with Andrew Luck on this one. Even though, the team is sitting with a 3-5 record, Andrew Luck is playing some of the best football of his career. He's completing at 65% completion rate, almost 66. He's about 65.8. 23 touchdowns and 8 interceptions at the midpoint to go along with 2,187 yards. Same old story with this particular team. I don't ever want to absolve one player of all blame in situations for being 3-5, but if you watch this team closely, he does everything he can to get these wins, and something somewhere else on that team always happens to kind of take them out of position. But, he's made his fair share of mistakes. But I think coming back off of a season where he didn't play at all, I think I'm going to go with him. But definitely shout out to Adrian Peterson. Definitely shout out to J.J. Watt, because he's another guy, because of injuries, people want to count him out. J.J. Watt is going to be dominant until he tells you he's no longer dominant. He might miss some dominance due to injury, but when he comes back off that injury, don't doubt that man until he tells you, okay, I'm not feeling it.
I thought you were going with the more obvious pick in Aaron Rodgers. That was where I thought you were going because Aaron Rodgers might come later, maybe for both of us. But we have offensive rookie of the year. Where do you see this? What do you see for this? I mean, we've had some good guys from this draft.
Offensive rookie of the year. I'm gonna go chalk with this one, even though his team is complete trash. Saquon Barkley has shown me some things in the first half of this season that makes me nervous as a fan in the division. It's like you see, like as an Eagles fan, you watch Saquon Barkley and you think your lucky stars that the Giants are in rebuild mode right now. Because if he ran on a team where it actually meant something, that dude would be straight scary, man. And I think he had his best game against us. So I saw it firsthand, broke down every single play. So I think he scared me into this pick. So I'm going to go ahead and take Saquon Barkley for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I can't argue with that one. He's really – it's not just the rushing yards. It's being able to be a receiver. He's so dangerous. He's making – you can't just focus on Odell anymore. This team's trash. Right. But it's literally Eli snap the ball, swing it out to Saquon Barkley and see what happens. And it's rare that you see a kid come out of college and what he did in college, he replicates it in the NFL. It's very rare to see that.
That's really the only time they get the offense going, Fred, is through him, and that's in the run and the pass game. That's the only time they get the offense going.
Exactly.
I mean, they even got receivers throwing him touchdown passes. Like he has to be involved.
129 yards on 22 total touches against you guys.
Why are you bringing up old stuff? Why are you bringing up old stuff, though?
He was wrong for half the point. I mean, I'm just saying, the guy's really good. He's really good.
I don't say, look, man, anybody, felt like helping me that game, we probably could have beat the Super Bowl champs, but okay. All right, let's go back. Let's take it back to Coach of the Year. What's your thoughts on the coaches so far through the midway season? It could be a whole hell of a lot of candidates for this one.
Well, it came down to three people. I will always throw my guy in, Bill Belichick, but not yet, Coach. We're above Coach of the Year. You don't need that trophy anymore. We know what you're worth. So it came down to two guys for me.
He definitely deserves to be in it, though. I will say that. It's kind of like it's kind of like Popovich in basketball. Like people expect so much and they know what they can do that you don't hear their names mentioned. But at the same time, people forget that they're writing these teams off every year. Oh, they're old. This is finally going to be the year. And then, you know what I'm saying, at the end of the season, he's a damn number one seed again. He ends up in the Super Bowl again. But you still don't want to mention his name even though you wrote the team off.
Definitely. For me, with this one was a no-brainer. As much as I really like Sean McVay and his undefeated Rams and Todd Gurley, he has maybe two, maybe three guys we can talk about later, but this one's easy. Andy Reid, the Chiefs, and Pat Mahomes. I don't know what he said to Pat Mahomes or in the offseason, what kind of confidence he gave this kid, but this offense is scary, and he's a great play caller. He's a very good offensive coordinator. He's a great quarterback coach. And Pat Mahomes is just tearing the league apart. And this team gave me the scare of a lifetime on Sunday Night Football. I don't want to see this team anymore. I need somebody to upset them at some point in the playoffs. I don't want to see them at any point. Just saying.
Yeah, for me, it came down to Andy Reid, Sean McVay, and surprisingly, Matt Nagy from Chicago. I didn't expect that. So he's one of the people you put in, like a lot of times you put people in these categories because you're like, I had no idea his team was going to be this good. And halfway through the season, they've been a surprise. I don't know if they're going to sustain that and make a playoff run out of this, but I think his name at least deserves to be mentioned midway through the season, even though his record is, it's 4-3. But I don't think a lot of people expected the Bears to be 4-3. Andy Reid still got love for that guy and would love to see him win a Super Bowl. His name definitely should come up, if not unanimously, midway through the season, because you do know Andy's going to do something to make his name fall out of it by the end of the season. So shout out to him. But I am going to go the other way. I'm going to go Sean McVay, even though we expected more from the Rams this year. It's oftentimes a little more difficult to play with more talent, to play and coach with more expectations. This was the year, basically, that we were going to see if the little bit of success that the Rams experienced last year was a fluke or not. And Sean McVay and his team so far have come back to answer that with a resounding hell no, this wasn't a fluke, and we're on our way to this Super Bowl game in Atlanta. So I'm going to go with Sean McVay on that one. Go ahead, you're up. Next category. What category you want to go to?
Defensive rookie.
We can back and forth these categories like Ren DMC. You're up.
Yeah. Defensive rookie of the year. For this one, they've been very, very tough throughout the season because no one's really made a big impact. I look at guys like Vita Vea coming in. You look at Denzel Ward, who I really, really, really like. And I would have to give it to him because he's a lockdown corner. He's on one of the worst teams in the league last year. Comes in, makes plays, covers the best receiver on anybody's team, and has had success. Denzel Ward, he's not the big name that you normally think of because last year, this past draft was a quarterback-heavy draft. But I'm going with Denzel Ward. Really, I got to give love to those guys on the island.
All right, I'm gonna go with and Mark Cook talked about him a little bit in his segment. I'm gonna go with Derwin James. This is a Florida State product. He's doing it on a team that's on the rise. Remember, this Chargers team is one that I thought highly of last year and thought even more highly of this season. I just didn't account for Andy Reid and the Chiefs to be doing what the hell they're doing. Pro Football Focus actually has him ranked already as the 5th best safety in football. So this is a rookie who comes in and is garnering this kind of respect on a good team. So he's not out there doing what he's doing for nothing. This is a team that's on a playoff run right now if they can keep up what they're doing. So I'm going to definitely shout out Denzel Ward. I'm going to even give a shout out to I'm gonna just keep it at Denzel and Derwin, but I'm gonna go with Derwin. I was thinking I'm not gonna do that. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Derwin James on that one. Let's go Defensive Player of the Year. Now I spoke about my man J.J. Watt a little bit earlier, and maybe through the first quarter of the season, I had him, in this spot because what he was doing in a comeback year was still nothing short of amazing because he just picks up where he left off. You say he can't do it, and then through the first quarter of the season, he's battling with his damn brother for the league lead in sacks. But I'm gonna go even more chalk here. I'm gonna stay with Aaron Donald on this because this man is still nothing short of amazing. I actually thought that the Rams defense started the season a little bit slow in comparison to what the expectations were. You had all of these names and you just expected them to just straight up go crazy. But Aaron Donald already is leading the league in sacks with 10. He's leading the league in hurries. He's leading the league in QB pressures. Anything that has to do with scaring the bejesus out of a quarterback, Aaron Donald leads the league in that category from a damn tackle position. This dude is still the most unblockable dude in the NFL. Shout out to J.J. Watt. Shout out to Khalil Mack for what he's done for that Chicago team. But I'm going to go with Aaron Donald on this
This one was so tough because the numbers don't necessarily say how good Khalil Mack has been, but personally, the fact that you've done more as far as pressuring the quarterback by yourself than the team that traded you, that says a lot. That says a whole hell of a lot. 5 sacks, been held out of a game, missed his first game, cool. If Aaron Donald wasn't in this league being, like you call Adrian Peterson, a cyborg, he'd win this hands down, no questions asked. But Aaron Donald from a tackle position with Indominant Sue and Michael Brockers and a secondary behind him that can lock up anybody, this man has 10 sacks, and we're only halfway through the season. This man is averaging a sack and a half a game. This is
from the tackle position, man.
From the tackle position in a 3-4 defense, where he's being asked to not only take double team blocks, but also penetrate up the field. Aaron Donald wins this. Kind of how we thought about J.J. Watt a couple years ago. Aaron Donald wins this award until he gets tired of winning.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy, man, to see, what he's doing right now. Like I said, any category where you're talking about scaring a quarterback, he's there, man. He has the most tackles for losses. He and Fletcher Cox are tied for the most QB hits. It's I know, right? It's crazy though. All right, so what's next?
Let's go with game or moment of the year, and we've had a few good ones. What game or moment really has set the tone for the first 8 weeks of the season?
There's really been too many to choose from here. You can easily talk about the game between the Patriots and the Chiefs. You could talk about that Thursday nighter with the Vikings and the Saints. Moment you can talk about Pat Mahomes with his 6 touchdown passes in a game. It's a lot of them, and I think I'm going to go with that one, man. We go with a second-year quarterback who, this is his first year starting. The rumblings were out there. They got rid of a very good quarterback, a very good game manager to get him in there. Andy Reid, as you call him, the quarterback whisperer, whispered, did his thing throughout the offseason to get this youngster ready, and he comes in and lights the league on fire. I'm going to go with that record-setting game from Patrick Mahomes. It was just an exciting game. Every time you looked up, this man was, in the red zone scoring another touchdown. I'm going to go with that as the moment. If I can break mine up, I'll go with that as the moment, but I'll go with that Chiefs-Patriots game as the game of the season thus far.
For me, this one was easy. Sunday Night Football in Lambeau. Bears are all over the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is hurt. Wonder about, we go.
Hits us with another R-E-L.
Yeah, exactly. That was an R-E-L-A-X to the degree for this team. And, down 20-3. And you come out and say, I don't care what you did in the first 3 quarters, I'm Aaron Rodgers. I'm gonna will my team to victory and drop 21 on you in the fourth quarter. We knew the second he got that last drive, it was over. It was completely over. And quite honestly, everybody gets so enamored with Aaron Rodgers, what he does outside the pocket. He's scarier in the pocket because he's getting it out a second and a half. The ball's out of his hands. It's all of these weapons. Jordy, who? Ty, who? This guy makes plays in and out of the pocket, and the savviest move of them all was 6 seconds left. He snaps the ball on the 7-yard line, where his kicker, we think, he's just going to try to end it. He doesn't want to put it in the hands of his kicker. Throws it out the back of the end zone, so there's only 3 seconds left. trust his kicker who struggled all season long. Kicker nailed. Mason Crosby nailed.
And you know what's even crazier? He could have did it again against the Rams, and very well might have if it weren't for Ty Montgomery making a terrible decision to come out of that.
Aaron Rodgers, you got to go for that one. You got to go. You got to really go. So, yeah, I mean, that was the moment of the year for me because that's where, everyone says Aaron Rodgers is the GOAT, and there's no, forget Tom Brady. That's one of those moments that makes me, as much as I love my 12, that 12 over there, he's really good.
Yeah, but that might be, a lot of people don't understand the difference. That might be a great that might be like a greatest versus best situation. Like with Brady's accomplishments and his individual play and accolades, there's no way you can say Aaron Rodgers is a greater quarterback than him. You might say he's better. So he might be the best quarterback we've ever seen, but he's not the greatest quarterback we've ever seen. That argument is still reserved for, the Brady, the Montanas of the world.
With that being said, with all things being equal, if you said give me a season with Rodgers, I'd take it in a heartbeat.
I'm taking the best. Because greatest comes with a lot of team accomplishments.
Yeah, exactly. I'd take Aaron Rodgers in a heartbeat. As my guy says, Aaron Rodgers will throw for 7,000 yards. I'll take those 7,000 yards if it comes with a Super Bowl. But tell me, we have Offensive Player of the Year. Who's your Offensive Player of the Year? We know how this kind of thing goes. It's like the consolation prize for
Offensive Player of the Year is the same one I had last season, the same one I had at the beginning of this season. The same guy who's on pace for 2,300 yards from scrimmage and 30 touchdowns. The same guy that is leading an undefeated team out in L.A. right now. I'm going to go with Ty Gurley, man. As much as we just raved about Saquon Barkley a few minutes ago, he's a rookie. He's the rookie version of Todd Gurley, but he's still not racking up, like the touchdowns and all that kind of stuff because he's playing pretty much on a bad team right now. But Todd Gurley is leading a very good team. I'm going with him, no questions asked, man. He's a beast. Best running back in the league.
Yeah, and Todd Gurley is hard. I mean, it's really with him. It's like, are we ready to forget about Marshall Faulk and the greatest show on turf with him? Because he's really, we forget of yesterday's past with the numbers that he's putting up. As much as I want to go with this, Pat Mahomes is it's not even for me. I got to go with my quarterback. He's really, really killing the league right now. And it's hard to say that. Usually you see this success 1 or 2 weeks for a young guy. He's doing it every single week. And he's doing it against some of the best teams in the league. He went, 6 weeks without an interception. And even then, after, he's still swinging it. I mean, he put it on the Jaguars. He put it on my Patriots and made me sweat for a little bit. This one's easy. That's my home.
All right, so let's go with our last category, and that's MVP. And speaking of one Pat Mahomes, halfway through the season, I got the youngster as the MVP of the league for all the reasons that you just mentioned. I want to give him his kudos for what he's done thus far through adverse moments. You know what I'm saying? He had some adversity against Denver, where they basically shut him down in the first half after he was lighting up the rest of the NFL and everything started to come easy. That's all we did up until that point was wait. Like, we want to see what this kid does through some adversity. He got some adversity in the second half of a game where he made several mistakes. He just made play after play after play to get the Denver Broncos out of there. Their defense for a day or so during the season looked like that Super Bowl defense. That may have been one of them until he started to, tear them a new one in the second half. And then, of course, that another game they had during the season. But that's besides the point. I got the kid in this. He also had some adversity against the Patriots. Not adversity in the fact that he was having trouble moving the ball or having trouble scoring, but this is something that, Nick Foles had to go through and had to learn. Like, if your team, you're not going to stop Tom Brady when he gets going. So your job is to go against that Patriots defense and try to keep pace with this guy, match this guy, and possibly be the last man standing when, everything hits the fan. And that's not easy to do. It's not easy. I always say, quarterbacks don't really go against each other. They hype up quarterback matchups and things like that. But you do see what that guy on the other side is doing, and you feel that pressure to go in, even though, the playing field is not equal because your defense is not their defense. They could be playing better than yours or vice versa. You still have to go in there with a Tom Brady that's scorching hot, and you have to match him score for score. And this youngster did that until, until the last man was standing. And in this case, the last man was Tom Brady. But I took a lot out of that game as far as what this guy could do under some adverse conditions. And I give him his props for it. So I'm going to go with the youngster so far during the season. We'll see what he does to keep this distinction from me going through. But right now it's Pat Mahomes.
Todd Gurley has really captured me. He's captured my 800 yards on the ground so far. Also, to add, he's just really doing a lot for his team. 11 touchdowns total already. So, yeah, that's great. I get it. He's on the best team in the league. But then there's this Drew Brees fellow who 1,900 yards, just shy of 2,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, only one interception. By the way, broke some records as well as he's completing 77% of his passes. Not a great offensive line, not a great defense. Of course, my guy's in it. My 12 is in it. Probably not. But Pat Mahomes, this dude is just killing. It's rare you clean house with both of these awards. I got to give it to Pat Mahomes because he is really tearing this league apart. And he's doing it against a little bit of everybody. It's not just the Browns or whoever or a bad team. He's beating teams like Pittsburgh. He's beating teams like the Chargers. He's beating teams with decent defenses like the Denver Broncos, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were so hyped up. He dropped 30 on them. The only loss you have is to the Patriots by 3 points. And really that came down to at halftime you maybe shouldn't have went so fast. Maybe it took your time. That comes with experience. This dude is everything you want in a quarterback. He's got a big arm. He's mobile enough to make plays on the perimeter. By the way, he has the best play. He probably has the best play caller in the NFL at this point. I'll just give it to him. And you know how I feel about Josh McDaniels and my team. But I'm going to give it to in a way, I feel like it's kind of a half and half kind of thing because Reed and Mahomes are kind of tied at the hip at this point. So, but yeah, Mahomes gets this one easily.
All right. Well, there you have it. Those are our mid-season awards. Check back with us in about 8-9 more weeks when we give you, our final awards for the season and our final moments. Some of these things might stay the same. Consistency is what we're looking for here. So we'll see how that goes. So we're on to our last segment of the program. This has been a good one. And we're going to do our pick six. We're going to do this. We're gonna make the pick six this week, the lightning round. We're gonna fire through these a little. We're still gonna give you what you need, but we're not gonna go as in depth as we usually do, since we had some more things going on this episode. But we're gonna start with our first game, and that game is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. Here we go again with this rivalry. This is the cliche rivalry. This is the one that says no matter what the records are, no matter which direction each team is going. You can throw the records out the window, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. Who you got? 4-2-1 versus 4-4.
This one was tough, and I picked the Ravens to win this division, so I kind of need the Ravens to come out with this one. But the Steelers win this one in a close one, in a really, really close one. On the road, I think these Ravens are kind of tailing off offensively, and the defense has to win it all for them. AB's kind of coming into form, and that James Conner kid is pretty good.
Yeah, you did pick them to win the division. I picked Pittsburgh to win the division, and, I did you one better and even picked Pittsburgh to go to the Super Bowl and lose to the Rams. I don't know if I believe that anymore, but I do believe that they're going to get the win this weekend. There's some other teams in the AFC that I'm looking at like, Pittsburgh, it might not be your year, even though, you're the ones that picked early. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh in this one, too. I think they're starting to peak at the right time. Like, as much trouble as we thought they may have been in the beginning of the season, they only have two losses. They got that dreaded tie on their record, but, hey, it's better than a loss. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh on this one as well.
Who? Just saying.
Yeah, right. Even though, like I said, the eye test for me, Connor just does not seem as explosive, as even as confident a runner and pass catcher as Le'Veon Bell, but his numbers tell a whole different story. His numbers tell you we don't miss this guy. So we'll see how that plays out. And Le'Veon Bell did not move before the trade deadline, so that story is about to get a little more interested in Pittsburgh as well. Let's go with Atlanta visiting Washington. And this is a pretty decent matchup. Atlanta at 3-4, looking to get back on the right side of things, looking to get to 500. Washington at 5-2. I heard, Fred, talking heads from Washington that root for the Washington professional football team call them the biggest 5-2 fraud that they've seen in a few years. Now, I know you were higher on this team than most, and I think they're playing pretty well, and I don't disagree. It's not one of those things where I say, they're better. They're worse than what their record is. They've played pretty well. The defense has led the way, as we mentioned earlier in the show. So I do think they're a decent team. I don't know, once the pressure starts to mount a little more, like say the end of the season, when there's a playoff race, or even if they get into the playoffs, things are just going to be a little tougher. And I think Alex Smith is going to have to loosen up and do a little more to help the team win in those situations, because by the end of the season, people are going to have film on everything you're doing. They're going to have different ways of facing and beating your defense. So Alex Smith is going to have to become a little more of a game manager if this team wants to go as far as they think they can go right now. In this particular game, I don't have a great reason to believe this, but coming off of a bye, I say Atlanta's going to come into FedEx Field and get a win here in a close one.
I'm going with you on this one. And like I said, this team is a lot better than people thought. Washington team, but best playmaker's not playing. Best slot receiver's not playing. More than likely, your number 2 receiver's not available. Your number 1 corner, because Josh Norman is not your number 1 corner. I don't know what happened to this guy. The Monster took his talent somehow, some way. So you could see a lot of Julio Jones getting the best of him. The Falcons aren't the best team on the ground. They're not going to run the ball a ton. They'll run enough just to keep you honest. They're going to throw the ball all over the field with Matt Ryan, and I think that'll be the reason why they win this game. Make those big uglies up front. Put those bigger guys like Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. Make those guys come off the field and put some real pass rushers on the field. Give me Atlanta.
Okay. So next up, we have Kansas City going to Dog Pound to see the Hugh Jackson-less, Todd Haley-less Cleveland Browns team. Do you think this is one of those games where, Cleveland will rally after getting their coach fired and they might have one great game in them to beat a good team? Or do you think Kansas City going to go in there and rip them a new one?
Well, the last time Pat Mahomes and Baker Mayfield met up back in the college game where it was Oklahoma and Texas Tech, there were over 700 yards of offense. I don't think it'll be that much this time around, but I do think there will be some fireworks on one side at least. Pat Mahomes is going to rip this team a new one, and quite honestly, it's going to be over really. You know how Alabama, I always, on the college show, we always talk about how Alabama it's over by halftime. This game might be over by halftime, just being honest. Give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to rally enough to to deal with this Chiefs team, who are smoking right now. I mean, they even got Sammy Watkins out there balling. His hamstring has only flared up on him one time so far this season. So, they're getting production out of him. Kareem Hunt is doing his thing. Tyreek Hill is damn near unguardable. And then, like we've talked about for the past 20 minutes, Pat Mahomes has been unbelievable thus far. I think they're going to go in and do what they're supposed to do against the Cleveland Browns
team. And guess what's going to happen? There's going to be an OT at the end, and somehow Pat Mahomes is going to and something crazy is going to happen. Hopefully not. But how those kind of things happen, especially in Cleveland.
All right. So we got the LA Chargers. I saw LAC. I was about to say LA Clippers. We got the LA Chargers going into Seattle. Seattle's playing pretty well right now. The Chargers, they're like my Giants of the West. They're like my AFC Giants. And I believe in them for some reason. Well, the Giants I no longer believe in. It's too late. But going into each of the past two seasons, like I was high on both of these teams. And both of these teams have a tendency to let you down. But the Chargers, I'm rolling with them on this one. I think they go into a hostile environment in Seattle and pull one off here.
There used to be a time if you even
they will have Melvin Gordon back in the flow as well.
Exactly. It used to be a time if you walked into Seattle, you weren't coming out with a W because that team, especially this time of year, it gets a little colder, maybe a little bit rainy. Especially if this game was midday or at night, you were not, because the 12s would be so loud. You think it's a college game, really, because of how loud it is. But that's kind of worn off. Richard Sherman's not there anymore. Earl Thomas isn't really. He's not there. He's there in spirit at least, but he's not there on the field for you. Russell Wilson has to do this thing by himself. That offensive line's not all that good. Still come out some way. I think this Seattle Seahawks. Give me the Seahawks in the upset.
We got two candidates here for game of the week, and the first one is and one thing about this particular game coming up, I'm kind of surprised that this game hasn't been flexed to I don't know, because I guess you have the allure in the Sunday Nighter though with 12 versus 12, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm sure they thought about it and was like, yeah, we can't take 12 versus 12 off. But I was surprised that this Rams Saints game hasn't been flexed. I think these are the two best teams in the NFC at the moment, and now they get to go head to head and prove it. What's even crazier, though, if my team wants to get back into the mix, they're going to have to prove it as well because they have both of these teams down the line. But right now, we got the Rams going to visit the Big Easy to see those New Orleans Saints, who are 6-1, to the Rams 8-0. This is a hard one to call. Like, I want to give the Saints the benefit of the doubt because they are playing at home. But I'm still going to go with the Rams going 9-0 on this one. I think they go into the Big Easy and they take one from the Saints.
Yeah, man, this one's gonna be tough because see, you have the pressure of coming around the block. As Mercury Morris would say, they're turning the block at this point. They're not even, they're right there, they're right there, just coming on in, and then you have the Saints in the way. They got to slow down just a little bit, but I don't think they'll slow down too much because that offensive line for the Saints is a little bit shaky, and Drew Brees is having to get the ball out a little bit quicker. Guess what? Aaron Donald and Dominican Sue are coming. And by the way, you throw that a little too quick. If you study long, you might study wrong, Drew Brees. And, well, bad things happen. This season, Gurley's going to see a bit of a mirror image of himself in this game with Alvin Kamara. That's going to be a very interesting kind of comparison to see how those two guys go up against each other. Obviously, on opposite sides of the ball, but that's going to be a very interesting comparison. But I think where this game is won in up front, Aaron Donald and Dominican Sue, Michael Clark, those guys can get pressure on Drew Brees, make him have to make some quicker throws than he used to. Look out. I don't care if this game is at home for the Saints. It's indoors. And when you play a team like the Rams, this is the type of team that wants to play in the sport. They're physical bunch, and Todd Gurley's going to get it. Really, the Rams.
All right. And last but certainly not least, the reason why this game wasn't flexed to Sunday night, like I said, you got 12 versus 12. We talked about this earlier in the show. We got number 12 Aaron Rodgers and his Green Bay Packers rolling up in the Foxborough at 8:20 on Sunday night to see the 6-2 New England Patriots with their Hall of Fame bound number 12, who many consider the greatest of all time. What kind of fireworks, what kind of shootouts we going to see in this one?
Oh, man, this one's going to be fun because, well, Clinton Dix isn't there anymore. Expect some down-the-field shots from Tom Brady and company. Gronk was a little bit gimpy on Monday night. He seems more like the decoy, but he made a crazy catch at the end to kind of open things up. Sony Michel probably not going to be back, but James White did a pretty good job. Cordero Patterson kind of helped out in the run game. He didn't look all that comfortable. But Josh Gordon, he's going to be a full-time go, no sitting out for a series because of tardiness. Julian Edelman and company of all those, the little small guys were just kind of running around out there. Those guys are making plays, and the defense seems to be rounding out just right at the right time. You know what my allegiance is like. My 12 is better than your 12, 5 versus 1. Just saying, go Patriots.
All right. I think the Patriots are going to win this one as well. I think the game and the game result isn't going to be as exciting as the potential matchup between the number 12s. But you can say that. But Aaron Rodgers, no matter what the odds are, if he doesn't lead his team to an improbable win, he always makes it interesting in the very least. So, this will be one that I'm definitely going to be sitting back on Sunday night with a little snack and a little drink, and I'm going to sit here and watch that one all the way through. So I'm looking forward to watching it, but I got the Patriots as well. So, folks, this has been another episode of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue. This was a doozy. We gave our midseason NFL awards. We talked everything going on in Tampa Bay, and we'd like to thank Mark Cook for joining us we'd like to thank him for joining us for that segment. There's a lot going on in Tampa, and like I said, I'm just so interested in this situation, man. I want to see how it plays out for it. But we'll see. The next chapter in this will happen on Sunday when Fitzpatrick takes the field again. And we'll see if he can hold Jameis off from getting his spot back. But let everybody know where you're going to be on Sunday afternoon when all of this stuff kicks off.
Way too many good games to not be in front of a TV, just taking it all in. I'm going to be, where I'll be, just kind of watching everybody else until, boys come on and we give Aaron Rodgers that work. But you can catch me on Twitter, Fred Produce BSB. The college season is kind of going good too. So it's rolling now. We're really, really in the meat of both seasons. So my attention is always on the team. So.
All right, so I'll be in front of some screens as well, down in the man cave, down in the command center. You can catch me on Twitter at DevMacWR Sports. You can catch me on the War Room Sports Facebook page, talking there as well. And you can also catch me if you have the GroupMe app. If you don't, get the GroupMe app and search for the War Room Sports Game Time app. We talk a lot of smack during football Sunday, during NFL Sunday. So join us there as well. You can check out everything we're doing at warroomsports.com. And again, we want to thank our special guest from this evening, Mark Cook from the Pewter Report. You can catch him and everything he's doing at pewterreport.com. That's PEWTER report.com. So this has been another episode of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue. I'm Devin McMillan. He's Fred Purdue. Like we always tell you folks before we leave you, because in this world you need to be reminded, don't accept mediocrity and be steadfast in the war against ignorance. We'll see you chumps on top.
Going up to LaBelle, touchdown. The big screen, Sanchez over the middle, touchdown. Play action, Cutler wide open, Johnson-Bacher.
War Room Sports, www.warroomsports.com. What? Ain't no more to it.
I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's premier home purchase lender. We've created a new way to protect you from unpredictable interest rates. Our exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, we lock your interest rate for up to 90 days. Then, if rates go up, your rate stays locked. But if rates go down, your rate drops. Either way, you win. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply.